Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Spilling Tea. I'm your host, Tiffany Daniels. We're going back to the JRC just in a moment, but first, the disclaimers and trigger warnings. If you're unfamiliar with the Stop the Shocks campaign or the campaign against the troubled teen industry, the pertinent links are right there in the description box. We have Autistic Hoya's massive archive on the topic, which of course 99.9% of our material on the JRC comes from there. We got the link to Neuroclastic's article where they interviewed over 800 ABA professionals in regards to the JRC's so-called behavior modification program. The very same article that got so deep under JRC's skin, they threatened them with a defamation lawsuit, no less. So, of course, we be salty. Read the article, share it, let everyone know, but the JRC doesn't want them to know. We've got Neuroclastic's GoFundMe also linked in there because, unlike the JRC, we don't have access to unlimited funds. Trigger warnings when we talk about places like the Judge Rothberg Educational Center or Agape Boarding School for Boys. You're going to hear vivid descriptions of and catch clips or surveillance footage of people with mental health issues and disabled people being tortured and abused. If you got young children present, please utilize the headphones. And also, this channel is marked not for kids for a reason. We use profanity and speak on dark subjects. If your child's 16 and younger and they are watching this, parental supervision is advised. Alright, folks, back to what we were talking about a moment ago. Just to remind you, it was the fact that the JRC actually had a separate sentence. We're going to read it again, because holy sweet baby tap dancing Jesus. So we can all swallow the stupid again. Let's read it, shall we? Where was it here? Yes. During this time, RM was also prescribed psychotropic medication Ativan, which proved ineffective. No shit, Sherlock. Because Ativan is not prescribed to deal with aggressive behavior or self-injurious behavior. Ativan is prescribed to be a drug that is placed underneath the tongue to dissolve right after a person has come out of a grand mal seizure to prevent further seizures from occurring and to lull the person who had the seizure asleep so that the body would be able to recover from the repercussions of said seizure. It does not surprise me it did not stop those behaviors because that's not the purpose of that particular drug. It's not a drug that you take regularly. It is something that epileptics have on hand for aftercare. Okay? But it's a really strong drug. Yes. Yes, it is. Because it needs to be. Because it is treating the aftermath of a seizure. Okay? We're going to read the next sentence after that. Just note, this is the level of just hostile, stupid we're going to be dealing with. Following extensive advocacy by RM's family, the Hogan Regional Center recommended to the Department of Developmental Services that RM return to JRC since Hogan could not properly care for him. There's a whole lot wrong with that last sentence. Let's start with this. Did anyone at any point in time when all this was going on ever think to actually set an appointment for RM with a mental health care professional? Did anyone actually look at these behaviors? And folks, even those of us who are just mandated reporters with certifications, we don't have multiple letters behind our name, but we were trained. I was trained to notice traits. That if it looks like somebody is going through abuse, or if I knew that they just came out of abuse and they were showing strong traits that had to do with, looks like those behaviors were coming out because of trauma, I would then A, notify the case manager, and B, out of my giant multicolored label binder, pull up phone numbers to folks that specialize specifically in dealing with the dual diagnosis of those who cover post-traumatic stress disorder and being neurodivergent. Okay? In the case out here, you're talking about a whole bunch of people who were giving different numbers depending on what was going on that would correspond with which borough office. Okay? If I had not done that and the parents kept detailing, you better bet my feet would have been held to the fire and I would have been special level fired. I do mean special level fired. Just saying. These are all supposed to be professionals. Every single last one of them is supposed to be trained in two areas: to notice particular signs and behaviors so that if it looks like there may be abuse going on, or if it looks like a case where you know they've survived and it looks like nobody's brought anybody in regards to help deal with the mental health fallout, you would give recommendations. Okay? So are we going to tell me that no one inside the Hogan Regional Center managed to recognize that the traits that RM was displaying, the regression, the behaviors getting worse, the new behaviors that they had never done before, and nobody noticed that this was trauma reactions? Who the hell are you hiring on the East Coast for these jobs? What certifications and degrees do you require before you give them a job position with any level of authority whatsoever? I was able to read that list and pick up on what was actually going on there without even having to look it up. Most survivors like myself, neurotypical or not, would be able to read everything that JRC wrote there and be able to determine pretty quickly that that kid is acting out due to the trauma and abuse that's been inflicted on them. I'm supposed to be all these trained individuals who, like myself, were trained in the area specifically to notice these things and to report them to the appropriate parties so that if necessary and need be, we can get these folks the proper mental health care as well as the rest of the treatment program taken care of. None of these people were able to read the signs. None of them? None of them? My aunt and I have always had a pretty strained relationship. I'm bullheaded, stubborn, and by the time I was living with her during the last 2 years of high school, I was already far too set in just not giving a singular fuck about popularity or what anybody thought of me on anything ever. Okay? Now, my aunt's particular areas of expertise have absolutely nothing to do with healthcare. She had a general ed teacher's degree, and she used to be the main accountant for my uncle's dealerships and later on the rent to own before they both got towards retirement age. When I was in high school, when she noticed that it was more autistic traits than there were ADD traits, another thing she noticed was exactly in the way I was acting out. This is a woman who does not come from this background, and even she was able to see from a bare surface level that I very obviously also needed to bring onto the theme somebody that specialized in regards to mental health, in particular those of us who've gone through some form of child abuse trauma. Not her field. She was not She did not have the particular types of training that I know damn well all regional centers drill into our heads. Not just that, but we have to get recertified on recognizing the signs every single year. Every year. Are you going to really tell me that no one at the Hogan Regional Center did not recognize those behaviors for what they actually were? But then the family fought them and da 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 da. If what the family wants is to send the kid who is displaying very clear signs of someone acting out due to trauma back to the very people that caused the trauma in the first damn place, then why the hell was nobody stepping in regards to that decision on the behalf of RM? That was part of my job, you all know. As the advocacy specialist, my main charge was, we call them consumers. I advocated for the consumer, point blank, period. Not on the parent side, not on regional office side, not on the service provider side, specifically for the disabled consumer. Okay? That was my job. If I were noticing signs like this, and the parents began fighting to send them back to the very place that caused the trauma to begin with, it was my job to step in. Okay? To step in. Again, there were particular instances where I had to. Because what the parents were going to do was going to infinitely make the situation worse, not better. But here's the little thing I would do. I would say, okay, but before sending them back, what I would really recommend, and I make them put it on paper, because we had to write down everything, that first we go ahead and we have an appointment set up with Burl and have them do their own assessment to see what they think. Doesn't piss off the parents. While if there is mental health care, if they're going to need a psychologist and a psychiatrist, they've got their foot in the front door. Egos may be bruised, but not beyond repair, right? It's a pretty simple on the surface request. But we can't take care of it, but I would love to see the notes. Wouldn't you? I know we can't HIPAA, and I will not violate RM's privacy, unlike the JRC. But in a very clear-cut case of a child acting out, which tends to happen if you're a child that has survived child abuse, that the right course of action would be to start helping them get into therapy, to start working through that trauma. Not to send them back to the place that caused the trauma to begin with, while in the meantime continuing to ignore the underlying triggers that caused the behaviors that started this insanity in the first place. All right, we're going to close out for today, folks. We don't get very many views on this channel, and the few we do get, they do get removed from time to time. So, folks, if you could, please don't forget to hit the like button, hit subscribe. Don't forget to hit the comments. I do appreciate your time this afternoon. As always, folks, we here at Spilling Tea hope you have a good one. I'll see you all tomorrow. Bye-bye, everyone. If I can get the mouse to cooperate. Bye-bye, everyone.